Good everyone, my name is Hope. I'm here to share some of the lessons I learned from Mass Indoctrination Day 2. During the course of the study, the preacher gave us about 11 chapters, 11 places where we could find the Church of God, and that as a believer, when you want to join a church, it should be the church that bears God's name, because anything that is of God will bear His name, and therefore just as in the book of First Timothy chapter 3 verse 15, there the church of God is the pillar and ground of truth. So therefore, I've also taken some time to look at some of the chapters where we can find the church of God. So as a believer, when you want to join a church, you should look at a church that bears the church of God and that also glorify God's name. And so the church of God, Christ has already purchased the church with his blood. And so therefore we are to join a church that bears the church of God, which can be found in the Word of God, which can be found in the Bible, like 11 places we can find the church of God. Also in the book of Ephesians chapter 3 verse 16, the preacher was telling us that we are all Gentiles, and as Gentiles we are followers. We are followers of the same hill and members of the same body. And the body is the church. And the body is the church. Now, the church was actually made to bring salvation to people. And therefore, as believers, we are to join the church. And joining the church is by accepting the gospel of God, is by keeping to the doctrine. And now, like we have always been, like I grew up to believe that we can just accept the church by raising up our hands and confessing Jesus Christ. But now, from yesterday's study, from the study of that Mass Indoctrination Day 2, I learned that we don't just accept the gospel by raising up our hands and confessing, but rather it's a thing that we have to obey. We have to keep the gospel. We have to obey. We can join the church by accepting the gospel, obeying the doctrine of Christ, keeping to the doctrine of Christ, keeping every one of them. That way we can join the church of God. Also in the book of Acts chapter 10 verse 34 to 35, there once we have acknowledged the gospel of Christ, God will accept us. We are not to accept God, but God will accept us. Once we have acknowledged him and once we are keeping to his doctrines, God will accept us. That was one of the things the preacher also told us, and so many other things. Thanks so much for listening. I want to also use this opportunity to keep inviting you to come and join us. If you have the time, you can come and join us to listen. Thank you so much. God bless you.